Started?
Alright boys, now please pay attention. So we were talking about anaerobic respiration. We said that during the anaerobic respiration, the whole glycolysis process takes place. What will happen that this glycolysis process takes place in the cytoplasm? Glucose, first it will undergo the whole process that it will first change into glucose 6-phosphate, then fructose 6-phosphate, then fructose 6-phosphate will change into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, and eventually it will break down into two molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. We know that, right? And these both are interchangeable into each other by the isomerase enzyme. Now, till now, up till the production of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate, two molecules of the ATP will be used up, right? For changing glucose into glucose 6-phosphate, and then fructose 6-phosphate into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. I'm not writing this down all because we have already discussed that in the glycolysis topic. Then only the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate furthers into the chemical reaction chains, right? And at the end of this, what do we get? We get two molecules of the pyruvic acid. During that, we get two NAD molecules which change into two NADH2 molecules. And during that, 4 ADPs change into 4 molecules of ATPs. So we have production of 4 ATPs, but 2 ATPs they were used during the glycolysis in the beginning. So we get net 2 ATPs at the end of the glycolysis, right? We also discussed that when the oxygen is not present in the system, and at that time it is, you see, this final electron acceptors will not be able to be there, right? So at that time only this, you see, this glycolysis process will take place, and pyruvic acid will remain inside the cytoplasm. It will not be taken up by the mitochondria into the mitochondrial matrix. Why? Because ATPs are required to pump the pyruvic acid into the mitochondrial matrix. Now let me just draw the small diagram of a mitochondrion to show that for going in, this pyruvic acid needs ATPs, right? But ATPs are not available. So what will happen? Pyruvic acid will remain in the cytoplasm. As it will remain in the cytoplasm, so it will go further into reactions like in the animal cells and bacteria. During the anaerobic respiration, we get lactic acid.
Sir, why aren't ATPs available?
Because oxygen is not there, aerobic respiration is not taking place. Already there is very limited quantity of ATPs are available, right? So as ATPs are not available in not enough amount, so pyruvic acid can't be pumped in, right? So remember that in bacteria and animals, lactic acid is produced, and in fungi and plants, alcohol and carbon dioxide is produced. And one very, very important point, there is no production of NADH2. I am saying no production of NADH2, but here I am saying that there is production of NADH2. How can I justify that? Now I am going to justify that, right? Now remember that this is pyruvic acid. It needs to be changed into lactic acid, right? So what will happen for changing this pyruvic acid into lactic acid? An NADH2 molecule will change into NAD. Now these two hydrogen ions are being released. They will enter over here, right? Now one of these hydrogen ions will attach with this oxygen. Let me draw the formula of lactic acid, CH3, COH, H, C double bond OOH. So what happened? Look here. With this carbon, there is no hydrogen, right? But now, with this oxygen, one hydrogen is attached over here and one hydrogen is attached over here. So this NH2 is being used up over here. Right? And what is formed? This is the lactic acid. Now, remember that there were two molecules of pyruvic acid, right? So two molecules of NADH2 will change into two molecules of NAD. Right? And total of how many? 4 hydrogen ions will be released, which will form two molecules of lactic acid. So at the end, the NADH2 which were produced during the glycolysis are used up. So there is net zero production of NADH2. Now you understand? So there is net zero production of NADH2 because the NADH2 which were produced, they are lost for changing the pyruvic acid into lactic acid. Right? Now, remember that we have discussed this thing before as well, that aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration can happen at the same time as well. Like when an athlete is running, his muscles require extra energy than the requirement. You see, the requirement is high, but the lungs have a certain capacity. We did talk about it yesterday, right? I can inhale to a certain extent, right? After that, my rib cage will not allow any more expansion of my lungs. And the oxygen which I have inhaled, the air I have inhaled, it will supply the oxygen to the blood. Blood will take it to the muscles, but muscles are working hard. They need more oxygen, but oxygen can't be provided. So at that time, what will happen? Both aerobic and anaerobic respiration will be done. Now, when the anaerobic respiration will be done, lactic acid will be produced in the muscles. Right? Now, this lactic acid, which is accumulated in the muscles during exercises, causes the pain afterwards. You feel pain in your muscles? That is because of this accumulation of lactic acid. Yes?
Why does pyruvic acid need to be compared to the lactic acid?
Yes. Because, now next thing which we are going to discuss, I was going there. When this is changed into lactic acid, this lactic acid is unloaded into the blood. From the muscle cells, this lactic acid is unloaded into the blood. Now let's suppose that this all is a cell. Right? This all is a cell. And over here we have a blood capillary. Now what will happen? That this lactic acid, it will be sent where? Into the blood. Now blood will take this lactic acid to the liver. In the liver, lactic acid will undergo into two processes. One, you see, you guys remember, you guys have learned one topic in grade 10, oxygen debt. Do you guys remember? Right? That you see, let's suppose I was running for 10 minutes, there was buildup of lactic acid in my body. Now, right after 10 minutes, I stop running. After stop running, I still keep on breathing heavily or not? For 2-3 minutes. I'm still breathing heavily. I don't need extra oxygen during that time. I don't need extra oxygen after the exercise, right? But still I am breathing heavily. Why? I am inhaling extra oxygen to cover up the oxygen which I required to break down the lactic acid in the liver. Now what happens? That in the liver, two things I told you what happens. 1 out of 4 molecules of lactic acid, they are broken down into water and carbon dioxide. For that purpose, for breakdown of lactic acid, energy is required, oxygen is required. And that happens in there, in the liver cells. And 3 out of 4 molecules of lactic acid, they are changed back into what? Glucose. Right? Now even changing the lactic acid back into glucose requires what? Energy. Understand? So that oxygen which is used after the exercise to recover from the accumulated lactic acid, that oxygen is actually what called oxygen debt, which we inhale after the exercise. Yes?
Why can't we take pyruvic acid and the
Yes, again, enzymes are of what? Lactic acid. Right? So that's why the lactic acid will be converted into that. And second thing, another thing, that you see this you see, pyruvic acid can't be carried in the blood. Lactic acid can, you see, because of the toxicity. Remember that, you see, whenever lactic acid is also a toxic compound, pyruvic acid is also a toxic compound. Right? Now, you guys have learned, inshallah we are going to learn that in homeostasis chapter in detail. When the amino acids break down in our body, deamination happens, which chemical is produced? You will tell me. Very good, ammonia. But ammonia is so much toxic, a little bit build up with it in the body can kill a person. I will teach you that in detail, inshallah. So that's why the ammonia needs to be changed into urea. Urea is also toxic, but less toxic than ammonia. Understand? So conversion is necessary. Understood, everyone? So this is what happens in the humans or animals' body during the anaerobic respiration. Yes?
Why is a quarter of the lactic acid converted to hydrogen water and CO2?
So obvious, they are made up of what? There is what is there? CH3, there is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So when the breakdown will take place, eventually it will change into what? Water and carbon dioxide. Sorry?
That's 1/4.
3 out of 4.
The 1/4.
Yes, it will change back.
What's the wastage of?
Sorry?
That's wasted like that, right?
No, not wastage. It's metabolism. Right? It's metabolized to break down. Right? Not all of it can be used. Alright? Now, next thing is the plants and fungi. Now again, here alcohol and carbon dioxide is produced. Now again remember, what was produced? Pyruvic acid. CH3, C double bond O, C double bond O, OH. What is this? Pyruvic acid. Now this pyruvic acid, it first changes into CH3, C double bond OH. Now, what happens actually over here? Please pay attention. This CO and this O, they will be released as what? As carbon dioxide. Right? What is left behind? CH3, C double bond O and this hydrogen. This hydrogen will bind over here and what will be formed? Acetaldehyde. Got it? Now remember, there were 2 molecules of pyruvic acid. Right? So there will be release of 2 molecules of carbon dioxide and we get 2 molecules of what? Acetaldehyde. Right? Then in the next step, what happens? Remember this point, no production of NADH2. Next step, what happens? That's this acetaldehyde CH3, C double bond OH. What will happen? That NADH2 molecule will change into what? NAD. What is released? 2 hydrogen ions. 1 hydrogen ion, and you see 1 hydrogen ion will attach with this carbon and 1 will attach with this oxygen. And what will be formed? CH3, CH, H, OH. Now I could write CH2 simply over here, but I want to represent that. You see this hydrogen and this hydrogen, you see, and this O now got the hydroxyl, right? So what is this?
Ethanol.
Ethanol. Simple words, alcohol. Remember, whenever we just simply use the word alcohol, it simply means what? Ethanol. Right? Now, again, remember, we had two molecules of acetaldehyde. So there will be use of two NADs into two NAD, and overall 4 hydrogen ions they will be released. And we'll get two molecules of what? Alcohol. Understand? Now, remember that now, if you see over here, I told you that when anaerobic respiration takes place in fungi and plants, alcohol and carbon dioxide is released. So, in the first step, carbon dioxide is released, and in the second step, alcohol production or ethanol production takes place. Now here, someone asked a question that, sir, alcohol is also poisonous. Doesn't it kill its organism? Yes, it do. Now, if you guys remember, you guys have learned the production of alcohol by the help of yeast, right? Now, when they, you see, how do they produce alcohol? They take big containers, right? And let's suppose they are preparing wine, right? First of all, you have seen in the documentaries that they crush the grapes with the help of their feet, right? In Discovery Channel, you see they are showing these kind of videos. After crushing these grapes, they put yeast, they put it into a container which is airtight, and for further protection from the air, they bury it under the ground. No air should reach over there. Now what will happen? As the yeast will not get any oxygen, it will only perform it will only perform anaerobic respiration and will only produce alcohol. So when too much alcohol will be produced, eventually what will happen? The yeast will die in it. The yeast will die in it. Understand? So when they are getting the alcohol, there is no yeast. Understood? So same thing, if there is two, you see, look, you see these plants, let's talk about plants. When they are performing anaerobic respiration, plants have to perform anaerobic respiration barely, not too many times. Question is why? Because, no, there is photosynthesis, but the thing is, they are not as active as animals. They don't have to walk from one place to another place. So the requirement of the plants for energy is very, very less. For that purpose, in the plants, anaerobic respiration is very little. So there is production of alcohol is very little. But if there will be production, it's lethal for them. Do you understand this point? So that is why it is like this. Alright? So this is the difference between anaerobic respiration in the bacteria and animals and plants and fungi. Alright?